Hey guys, I'm Kelly. Thanks for joining us today. I'm here with my friend Betsy. We're talking about friendship, and I'm really excited to talk with her about her story of friendship. And so I know you, Betsy, but everybody else might not. So tell us a little bit about you and who you are and your family and life.
Well, I am a Dominican girl. I am married to Moises. We have 3 kids right now. Oh, I can't believe I just said that. I think it's the first time I said it.
Because one of those kids
it's here.
in utero.
Yes. So I have a 10-year-old Josue. I have Sammy, he's 7. And I have baby Grace on the way. And it's our little surprise because we were not expecting to have another baby after 3 miscarriages. So it's such an evidence of God's grace, and we are so happy. So as I said, we are originally from the Dominican Republic, and my husband is a pastor here in Dallas. And we are starting this new adventure of serving God in a new place and reaching Spanish-speaking people and just doing life here.
So how long have you been in the U.S. from the Dominican?
Yeah, so we moved in 2015, but we moved to North Carolina because Moises went to seminary.
Okay.
So it was such a big change for us. Yeah. Even though I visited the United States almost every year, like living here is another deal, a game changer for us because culturally it's different. And this is so big here. So we moved in December 2015, and we moved to Dallas in December 2018. So we spent 3 years there, and if that was big enough, we came to
you came to the Metroplex, yes. Dallas Fort Worth. It's massive.
Yes.
So that has got to be hard to move from where you're from, your homeland, and the friendships you had there to then be uprooted and move to North Carolina.
Yeah.
And try and build new relationships there and friendships. And even though I know, English, you speak English really well. I don't know any other language. So I feel really, dumb Americans. We don't know any other languages. But that's gotta, even that, the barrier there, that's gotta be hard. So what was it like for you building friendships in North Carolina?
Well, like when I first moved here, I realized that a lot of my identity was rooted in the friendship that I had back home, right? Because when you have people that you know for a lifetime, there's a very just a little bit of investment daily in that friendship because these people, they know you don't have to explain a lot because they know you, they know if you're struggling just by looking at you, right? But when I came here, it was like a fresh start, and I felt lonely in the beginning because I didn't have like the reward of people encouraging me or the reward is not the word. It's just like what you receive from your friendships, right? Your friends. So I started praying for a friend. And I was really intentional. I was like, Lord, I need a friend. And incredibly, God in his grace, he provided a friend, but also he provided a community. And I need to be honest, like when you, like as a Spanish speaking, woman, I feel like a little bit shy. In my relationships, I'm not shy at all, but I felt like I didn't have a lot to bring to the table because I didn't know like the language or I don't know, like crazy ideas in my mind. But one day, it was really clear to me, if I have the gospel in common with someone, that should be enough.
Yeah.
And that truth was so liberating for me because instead of trying to find someone that's really similar to me, I just started to, focus in what we already have in common that is eternal and it won't fade, right?
Yeah.
So and I honestly thought that the Lord was going to provide, the type of friends I had in the Dominican Republic, moms with young kids, the type of relationship that our kids can play together while we, have a good time chatting. But the Lord brought me, crossed my path with this single woman. She's my age, but we are so different, Kelly. I can't tell you. She's so focused and like task oriented and such an introvert and so different. Like I would say I'm like the creative type of person. I'm always like in the clouds. Yeah. I can, get lost in my own neighborhood. So we were so different, but the fact that both of us had that clear that the only thing we need to have in common is the gospel, it was so freeing because we kind of complemented each other. And she was living by herself. We were a new family in this new community. So it's like instead of a consumer mentality, we were investing in each other. Sadly, in the past, I thought that every single woman or young girl, she's a target for me to invest, in her. Right. But with her name is Rachel. So with Rachel, I realized I need her to be investing in me. We need to be investing in each other. Yes. So she had a family in my family, and I have a sister, and I within her. Yeah. So instead of looking at her as the friend who's gonna babysit my kids, or it's gonna be there when I need to go take coffee, I just gained a sister, and it was so sweet.
I love that. And I think a lot of married women, we tend to think how you just spoke. Well, I'm married now, I need married friends, or really someone in my same season of life who's just like me, because that's easier for us. Yes. It's not hard to be friends with people who are just like you. Yes. But I'm sure there were a lot of benefits, and still are a lot of benefits to your friendship, to be friends with somebody who's in a totally different season of life than you. What are some of the things that you've gained from this friendship that God provided that was different than what you thought?
Well, this is very sad, but sometimes I've been married since I'm 22. So this has been my world. And sometimes we're so blind to the needs that our single sister have, and sometimes we kind of categorize them in another place of even in their spiritual growth. Like we tend to think that they're lacking something in some way, and even socially, we we program our life, our parties, our stuff around people, and we're not realizing that we are casting them out, right? So that opened my eyes to a lot of ways that I've been neglecting to love single women around me, and the way she pictured the gospel was so enlightening to me, and it was a game. After that, I'm instead of thinking of them as potential helpers, I'm looking in ways how can I serve them, right? And the good thing about this is that also I thought, well, the Lord gave me this friend, I'm fine, this is all that I needed, right? But thank God the Lord placed us in a very gospel-centered, vibrant community. And we committed to attend growth group every week. And it was not just religious type of you need to go to your growth group, but we were committed to each other to grow together. And it was mixed. So I had college students, and I had other single friends, but also I had elders. So it was so rich. Awesome. To develop relationships, and it was also eye-opening to the heart of the church. And I really liked there's a line in your book that I really like, is when you said that like speaking truth to each other is the church immune system. I was like, this is so beautifully said. And I've seen that firsthand in my life with my friend Rachel, with the community that the Lord gave me. You know, that is what keeps us healthy, alive, functioning. And I think I'm gonna adopt that, because it was brilliant. I love that.
So I'm really glad to hear your story, Betsy, because I think it helps me, as somebody who's lived in America my whole life, understand how hard it is to be new to a culture, to be new to a whole dynamic of situations and practices and standards that you're not used to. And I know that there's probably a lot of people who feel that way, maybe who have come from different countries into the United States. But even the US is a very big melting pot. And so even within the US, we have lots of different cultures, depending on where people are from or how they grew up, or even like church context, what, you know, denomination you grew up in. There's lots of little types of different cultures, and building friendships across those lines can be really scary and difficult. So maybe you can tell us some of the ways like that was hard for you when you came here, so that we can learn to grow in some empathy in that way.
Yeah, I think that sometimes it was a little bit hard, because you come to this new country, and there's a lot of things that you don't know culturally, right? There's not like a handbook they give you when they give you your papers, right?
That'd be nice, though.
This is how you should do stuff. So that's something that you learn. But something that is really hard is when people assume that coming from for example, in my case, a third world country would be exactly the same to coming to, you know, this structured and organized type of, you know, place. So
do you have any examples of that? Like of how, like trying to figure that out? Okay.
I remember being at a lunch. This family invited us. They had the best heart. I mean, they really wanted us to feel welcomed, right? So we were having so much fun. We had our lunch at their house, and we were, you know, telling stories, and we talk a lot, you know, Dominicans, and I would say Hispanic, you know, in general, we talk a lot. And we are not very ruled by the clock, right? So we didn't realize that normally here you get together for a period of 2 hours, right? So, you know, this friend, when, you know, it was, you know, the clock's at 2 hours. So he stood up and he said, guys, I'm sorry, but I have something else to do. So you need to leave now. And we were shocked, like, what just happened? Did we say something wrong?
Wow.
Yeah, because we were not paying attention. We are now.
Yeah.
And we're behaving. But
well, I remember when you and Moises came over to our house, you guys, like, I think we like to talk for a long time too. And I think it had been 2 hours. Like, okay, well, it's been 2 hours. I know we need to go. We were like, no. We're fine. But like, that really made an impact on you guys.
Yes, but it made us, you know, more I don't know if that word it's okay, but like sensitive in a good way. You know, my brother, my sister is giving me 2 hours of her life. And I should be grateful, you know, and they're just organizing their agenda because they want to be productive and they want to do things well. So and at the same, like, and that's what I love about my friendship with Rachel, as I told you, is that she was very open to learn new things about our culture. And I was also open to learn new things from her and her culture. Because something that I think that is wrong is that if you come from another place, sometimes you feel like your security and your identity is just to keep being like who you always been, while you are doing life with someone that is totally different. So I think that I can't stay with my, oh, let's talk for hours, and I think that we should learn from each other. I'll bring my spices, you bring yours, and let's cook something different. And, because it is so liberating when your culture is not your identity. This is who I am. Right. This is how I've been raised.
It's a very important part of you.
It's a very important part of me. But right now, my culture is the gospel. So right now, we are going to do life together. And in some ways, I have to become a little bit more Americanized because I love you. That's fine. Let's just create another subculture between each other and just celebrate diversity and just doing life together.
Wow. I think what you're talking about is a really beautiful picture. Like, it reminds me of Revelation and what we see there at the end, that God is drawing to himself people from all tribes, all tongues, all nations, which we love in theory. But really practicing that is difficult because it forces us to learn other people's normals, to even prefer one another. So some of what you're talking about, I think, is actually really hard to practice.
Yes.
To take something that is important to you, that has shaped you, part of who you are, and enter into relationships where you're able to say, I'm going to come and learn something about you. And even if that means my preferences, I'm going to set aside for a little while so that we can make our gospel communities one where all different cultures feel welcome. Yeah. But that means we all kind of have to give a little bit.
So back in our church in North Carolina, it was so sweet because suddenly the Lord started bringing people from everywhere. So in our growth group, you won't believe me, but we had people from Brazil, Iran, El Salvador, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Filipinos, Americans, of course. Yes. And imagine if everybody says, oh, let's do it my way. Or no, I think the best nights where everybody brought a little bit of their food or their culture, and we would pray in different languages. And, that's fine. That's fine. We don't need to be a certain type of, we don't need to be ruled by a certain type of culture or, no, it's just, let's just put all these flavors together and it's going to be sweet. Yeah. It's sweet. I love that.
Well, I think that the people who tend to be the worst at that, at welcoming that, are sometimes Americans, because maybe we're in the majority. So we're not often thinking about that, about how to welcome those differences. So maybe what would you say to somebody like me, or like someone watching who's going, man, all my friends are other Americans. I don't even know what I would say to somebody from the Dominican Republic. I don't even know if I would feel comfortable in the same room with someone from Iran. What would you say to them, something that they can do to build friendships with people from different cultural contexts?
So I think I would say this for the Americans, and I would say that for the Spanish-speaking people or people from different cultures that are so close, like even living here, they're close to, this is just my people, my tribe. I just get along. I just go to the supermarket that sells my stuff, stuff like that. I would say that we need to consider the gospel. I mean, I would like to say something brilliant and fancy, but it's the basic. We need to consider the gospel, and we need to see that we are united in something that is eternal. So when we focus on that, it's easier to love, even though we look different, right? So I would say we can take baby steps of just being curious about how is your background? How does your culture looks like? Let me try your food. Honestly, I think that would be so sweet for someone, that's from another culture, just showing a little bit of interest. I have had friends that they said, I'm going to try your food. I'm not sure I'm going to eat it all, but I'm going to try. And that's sweet, right? It's the same for me. There are things that For example, it's hard for me to eat chicken pie. For example, stuff like that, right? So
like chicken pot pie.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard. And I've learned to eat it, and I love my brother and sister, and that's it. That's just what I need. So it's just not being intimidated or not thinking, because all those things are in our mind, or all those barriers are in our mind. I think that we just need to love each other and show interest.
That's so great. I'm so grateful that you came here and that we're talking about this, because I think it's a really important topic and something that I hope that, those of you who are watching, that this is encouraging you too, to think, how can I be curious about other cultures? Other people who might be my next door neighbor, they might be on the street or in my church or in the church next door, that we can show curiosity and learn and build bridges instead of staying isolated, that we can use the gospel to unite us and not divide us. So I think that's something we could use more of in the States.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Betsy, for being here. And thank you guys for joining me today for this conversation.